from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Happy Monday to you. We're 7 minutes past the top of the hour, kicking off the week. And if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, feel free to give me a holler. The number, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez. And it's our anniversary. No, not our anniversary. It's the anniversary of Joe Biden, Joe El Baboso Biden, exiting the 2024 presidential race. That happened a year ago today. And by the way, Hunter Biden, he says that his dad, Joe El Baboso Biden, may have been under the influence of a controlled substance when he was at the debate, which is why he did so poorly. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I am looking at this piece in the New York Post, and according to the piece in the Post, Biden says, "I know exactly what happened in that debate." He said he was taking Ambien, which is a controlled substance, as far as I know. And I'm thinking, if you're going to debate, maybe you want to do an Adderall, right? If you have distractibility problems, if it's prescribed by your provider, maybe you want to drink some caffeine. If your doctor says it won't, explode your heart, maybe you want to do something to be focused and sharp and locked in. But no, not Joe El Baboso Biden. He decides to take a sleeping pill. Sleepy Joe, right? As President Trump called him. He really was Sleepy Joe. And Hunter Biden went on to say a lot of other stuff. He was talking about F this and F that and F you if you think that immigration matters. Listen to him on this podcast with Andrew Callahan. Check this out.
Like all these Democrats say, you have to talk about and realize that people are really upset about illegal immigration. You. How do you think your hotel room gets cleaned? How do you think you have food on your table? Who do you think washes your dishes? Who do you think does your garden? Who do you think is here by the sheer just grit and will that they figured out a way to get here because they thought that they could give themselves and their family a better chance. And he's somehow convinced all of us that these people are the criminals. White men in America are 45 more times likely to commit a violent crime than an immigrant. And the media says, well, you got David Axelrod and, Rahm Emanuel. So smart Rahm Emanuel. And said, we got to understand that these people are really mad. And we got to appeal to these white voters. Rahm, the only people that appealed to those white voters was Joe Biden, 81 years old. And he got 81 million votes. And he did not because he appeased their Trumpian sense, but because he challenged it.
All right. Well, thank you, Hunter Biden. Now, listen, Hunter Biden sounds mad. He sounds like a New Yorker, by the way, too. He uses F-bombs like adjectives. But Hunter Biden saying that this is what we think of illegal immigrants. Now, for one, I appreciate everybody that fixes my bed in the hotel. I can't say that for certain that they are illegal immigrants. I've seen many different types. But the point is, Hunter Biden could care less about the children that were trafficked here, 300,000 children that every now and again we find working in the middle of the night, right? At a marijuana farm last year or a few months back when the boy got his hand caught in a machine working the overnight shift, 12 years old, lost a finger or two. What was he doing there? He was there because he came here as an unaccompanied minor, a.k.a. child slave labor that was sanctioned by the Biden administration. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris oversaw the largest underground slave trade, literally the largest human smuggling operation in American history, sanctioned by the U.S. government, by Joe El Baboso Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas, And qué mala eres. That hasn't been lost on me, and I believe this is in large part why they lost the election. But it doesn't just stop there, right? We also now have this bombshell that came out over the weekend. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard blowing the lid off of this alleged cover-up that proves that the Biden administration knew with certainty, as well as the Obama administration, that Russia had no influence and no interference on the U.S. presidential election, yet repeated that lie anyway, just so that they could surveil candidate Trump and then eventually President Trump. Imagine that, doing surveillance on a sitting president. Then the Mueller report, spending $40 million for what? To pretend to prove something that they already knew was not real, fake, phony, and fraud. Why? This was all an effort to sabotage his presidency. We talked about it then, we're talking about it again now, but now there's proof, and Tulsi Gabbard's put it out there. So people are up in arms, everybody's calling for jail, but will these deep state saboteurs be held accountable? Now, you know, my position is they never do. They hide behind the all sorts of things. And let me tell you, it's a shame to see that they're going to get away. We're going to get into that. We're going to talk about this Border Patrol agent that was shot in the face over the weekend in New York City. Eric Adams failed America, failed New York yet again. And Secretary Kristi Noem, she called him out. She called him out and said that it's his failed policies that led to this, letting the bad guys out of jail over and over and over, putting them back on the street so they could go back and shoot people. Shame on Eric Adams, and good on Kristi Noem for calling him out. Anyway, straight ahead, we're going to talk to the guardian angel himself of New York City, Curtis Sliwa, who's running for mayor. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So a Border Patrol member has been shot. Off-duty Border Patrol cop in New York City. You figure, all places you come to a vacation and you get shot in the face. My prayers are with his family, but this shouldn't be happening. Now, this is the same city that is overseen by Saint Eric Adams, elite Eric Adams, the one they say that everybody should drop out of the race just to appoint and anoint this guy. They're wrong, they're fake, they're phony, and they're fraud. You know why? Because this city needs a guardian angel. Curtis Sliwa has been a guardian angel in this city for 45 plus years, and he's with us right now. Curtis Sliwa, welcome.
Oh, my pleasure to be here with the liberty-loving Latino who has got my back no matter what everybody out there says.
Well, that's the truth, brother. You know why? Because I tell this story all the time, but it's the truth. I was a little kid. I was probably 6 years old. I was on the D train coming from Avenue M going to DeKalb Street downtown. And my mom was there, and a black guy and a Puerto Rican guy get into a fight on the subway. And they're talking. It's a lot of bluster. But the one guy is like putting his hand in his hoodie here, and he's like, I'll shoot you. I swear I'll shoot you. And the other guy pulls out a knife. And I'm thinking, if the guy that had a gun really had a gun, he probably would have used it. The guy with the knife really has a knife. And my mom is pulling me closer and closer under her wing over here and her pocketbook here to use it as a self-defense weapon. And finally the guy gets off and the other guy gets off and it's over. And no incident, just talk. And my mother looks at me and says, this wouldn't have happened if the guardian angels were on this train. Mm-hmm. And this was during the height of you being on the trains all the time. And it made me realize people had so much faith in you and the organization you built with 11 other guys, 12 other guys from a McDonald's in the Bronx. And people felt safe in New York City. Today, you've got Border Patrol agents coming from other places to New York City getting shot in the face by Dominican gangbangers. This is wrong. This is bad. And yet there are still people saying, we need to get Curtis to drop out of the race. Curtis isn't the guy. Meanwhile, you got last week's Harris X poll that shows you neck and neck with, I like to call him Moron Madmani. You got Moron Madmani, and then now you've got this new poll. Tell us about it.
Well, let me tell you something. It all comes down to Curtis Sliwa versus Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo to take on Mamdani. And as I said last week on the Sean Hannity show exclusively and coined the phrase, Andrew Cuomo can never be mayor because he was slapping too many fannies and killing too many grannies. And we had millions and millions of hits on that, especially from the millennials and Gen Zers, which we must have to beat Zohran Mamdani, because we've got those who are 55 plus, without a doubt. But mine is the only campaign other than Zohran that is trying to go out there and talk to these millennials and these Gen Zers. And most are going to sit on the sidelines. Most will be apathetic and indifferent. They would come on board for our value system, but they have to be treated with a modicum of respect, dignity. You can't be bad-mouthing them, saying they're slackers, they're deadbeats, they're naive, they're stupid. You do that, you're pushing them towards Zohran Mamdani, or you're pushing them towards apathy and indifference, which means they're not going to get involved in the election. I hate to tell my baby boomer friends out there, which there are many, we are no longer the majority. We're not the majority of the population in America. We're not the majority of the voters in America. The millennials and Gen Zers are. And so we need to understand our time is past. Their time is here. We either allow them to be, through peer pressure, pushed in the direction of extreme liberal values, or we're never going to be able to win a race if they're running, especially in the hardcore blue states and blue cities. So that's why New York City is on the cusp of going Democratic Socialists of America, led by the person that you coined the phrase for, AOC, all out crazy Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, leader of the Socialists of America. That wasn't my line. That was the liberty-loving Latino Rich Valdez's line.
And AOC, all out crazy she is. Right now we've got this all out crazy moron, Mad Manny, who's trying to take over New York City and turn it into communist Cuba, Venezuela, the Red China. It's amazing what we're watching, and that people want to see this happen.
But, Rich, let's look at the history here. Their patriarch is Bernie the Altacaca Sanders. He's in his 80s. Hillary decided we need to show we have a competitive primary. I don't want it to appear that there's a coronation for me. This is back to 2016, right? So they let Bernie Sanders into the Democratic primary. He's never had a D in front of his name, never. When he was the mayor of Burlington, Vermont, never. When he was the congressman, only one congressman in Vermont, never. U.S. Senate, never. Why did they let a socialist into their ranks? If had it not been for the superdelegates, Hillary would have lost that nomination because she lost the caucuses and she lost the primary vote. So now they added insult to injury. The guy who would have been the speaker now if the Democrats were in charge, not Hakeem Jeffries, Joe Crowley, number 2 in line to Nancy, let me count my stock portfolio, Pelosi, because, boy, am I benefiting from all this insider trading information. He would have been next in line. AOC was a bartender. She wasn't even supported by the Working Families Party. They supported Joe Crowley. He didn't campaign at all. He had one debate, one mandatory debate. He wouldn't show up. He sent a woman, a surrogate, and she pulled off the upset of the century. When you look at it, she won because she went door to door. She did good old-fashioned retail politics with her supporters. And Joe Crowley didn't campaign one day. Now you hear Andrew Cuomo apologize. I didn't run a hard race. I should have to prevent Zohran Mamdani from winning. So all these Democrats have given up on their party, have turned it over to the socialists, wouldn't even launch a fight. And I hear people, some of your listeners, not all of them, suggesting that, no, you can't win, you're a Republican, so let's let the Democrats mess it up even more. We'll go with an old-style Democrat instead of a new jack Democrat. They created this mess. Yep. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zohran Mamdani are the products of the apathy and the indifference of the moderate Democrats who won't fight their battles.
100%. Now, Curtis Sliwa, I agree with that 100%. It's not a good idea to go with the guy who's polling in last place and say, this guy, we need to clear the road for him.
Because he's the mayor.
Because he's the mayor, and he's doing so good, right? You got cops getting shot in the face. You've got women getting set on fire on the subway. The Roosevelt Hotel became the stomping grounds of MS-13 or Tren de Aragua. In New York City, people think New York City's getting better. I see New York City getting worse.
The number of homeless, our own emotionally disturbed that we should have been taken care of all throughout his administration. And yet, when he was the Biden of Brooklyn for the first 2.5 years, he couldn't stop taking care of migrants. He was actually competing with Johnson in Chicago, with Denver, with San Francisco, with Boston, saying, don't go there. Come here. We'll put you in Times Square. 3-star hotel. And by the way, culturally appropriate food. So that if all of a sudden Rich Valdez's brother from Venezuela showed up and said, I don't eat the schmear with the bagel. No problem, Rich Valdez's brother. We're going to Grubhub you con arroz, habichuela, beans, and rice with the biggest chuleta pork chop you ever had in your life. Who's paying for it? We, the sucker taxpayers. That was all Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, with the $5,000 customized suit. Rich, everybody looked at him and said, how can a guy on his salary afford a $5,000 different customized suit each and every day? Think about it. Follow the money. The guy is a crook and should be in jail. If not for the Department of Justice and Donald Trump rescuing him, he would be the cellmate, the Maytag for Bobby Gold Bars Menendez from New Jersey, your state.
Gold Bar Bob.
Yep.
Now, Curtis Sliwa, before we hit the break, I want you to take a minute or so. There are people that listen to this program. We're live and national in the nation's capital. And for those in MAGA world that are listening, maybe some in the White House, what's your message to them? I know there may be bad blood, big egos, whatever the case is, but the reality is you are the only candidate that provides any contrast, in my opinion. What do you say to those in the White House and in the Beltway?
Look, let's do the litmus test. Let's take Zohran Mamdani, let's take Andrew Cuomo, and let's take Eric Adams. All three of them believe that migrants should vote. If that would have happened in New York State, New York City, you would never see a Republican elected again because their votes would go to the Democrats because they would be beholden to the Democrats. They would, in fact, have the pictures of Eric Adams on the wall, Hochul on the wall, Joe Biden on the wall. Hey, we're here voting. We're living here. We're sitting in this house that should have gone to somebody else because of the Democrats. They'll vote Democrat for the next century. And the only ones that stopped them were the Republicans who went to the state Supreme Court and won a victory there. But they're going to keep trying. Who are the only three candidates in this mayoral election that are for sanctuary city status? Zohran Mamdani, Cuomo, Adams. Who's the only one opposed to it? Curtis Sliwa. What I say is put it on the ballot. Let the people vote. There will be such a turnout of voters on both sides of the issues.
That's right.
They'll want to discuss it. They'll have town hall meetings. People will be all geeked up, excited. It's principles that excite the electorate, not necessarily the politicians themselves. You would probably have a turnout of 60, 70% of the electorate. And then, even though I'm opposed to Sanctuary City, if the people decided, okay, we're going to stay at Sanctuary City, I'd have to live with it. Naturally, I'd nudge my way to take as much back so that law enforcement can do their job. And then 2 years later, like in California and Arizona, where they have initiatives and referendums all the time, you could put it back on the ballot, and hopefully the people would see it my way. I trust the people. I don't trust the politicians. I really don't, Rich.
Amigos, we're on with Curtis Sliwa, candidate for the city of New York and founder of the Guardian Angels Safety Patrol Group, a radio legend in his own right, and we're coming right back.
This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
One of the suspected attackers, the one that was injured, his name is Miguel Francisco Mora Nunez, a Dominican national that was entering into this country illegally back in 2023. He was then released back into this country by the Biden administration. Miguel Francisco Mora Nunez and has a rap sheet that is a mile long. He was arrested. He was charged with grand larceny and also assault. The state of Massachusetts has an active warrant out for him for armed robbery with a firearm. He also has many other charges against him, such as kidnapping and witness intimidation. There's absolutely zero reason that someone who is scum of the earth like this should be running loose on the streets of New York City.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company. Let's see, I don't know, for another couple of hours at least. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And you just heard some tough talk from Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security. She oversees ICE and the Border Patrol. And Curtis Sliwa, I want to get your thoughts on Kristi Noem taking Mayor Adams to task, letting people know that this man is a fake, he's a phony, he's a fraud, and he supports sanctuary cities.
He had a meeting with Tom Homan, in which he promised Tom Homan complete cooperation. He basically signaled to Donald Trump that in return for his freedom from conviction, he would. And Kristi Noem, he promised in meeting after meeting, you'll have my full cooperation. Well, I think Kristi Noem's patience has worn thin, like the electorate in New York City. They recognize he speaks with forked tongue. So if he's with the administration, he says everything he knows they want to hear. When he's with the adversaries, he'll say the opposite. And he never makes a decision. That's why I say he's the swagger man with no plan. I think Kristi Noem, with the shooting of this off-duty federal police officer who was on vacation here, who was facing that really bad hombre from the DR, who was wanted in Massachusetts, wanted in New York for all kinds of crimes, and it always seemed that the DAs would cut him loose, even though he was an illegal alien committing crime after crime after crime. I think she recognized what we all knew about Eric Adams. He's a fugazi. He's a fake, phony fraud.
That's right.
He says one thing but doesn't follow through. And you don't want to mess with a woman. You know, a guy you can toy with. But a woman, you make her a promise. I know you know this well, Rich Valdez.
I get in trouble for that all the time.
You make a promise to a woman, promise made, better be promise kept. And I think she reached her tolerance level. And the whole press conference was an attack on Eric Adams. Now, she was friends with Eric Adams. Tom Homan was friends. Donald Trump is friends. They never invited me to the White House or Mar-a-Lago. But they found out after months and months of Eric Adams that he never follows through on his promises. That's why after almost 4 years as mayor, can you think of one defining issue that he is responsible for other than being the nightlife mayor, breaking, to the dawn, 4 o'clock in the morning, you open a club, he'll be there. You got a problem in your neighborhood, it better be related to the club that he can attend, because if not, he ain't coming.
Curtis Sliwa, there's a big club in Miami called 11.
Ooh.
And I've been, and it's
Whoa,
cool.
whoa, whoa.
I like Miami, but I see Eric Adams on a podcast, and he's telling the podcast host, you know what New York City needs? An 11 in New York City. I'm thinking maybe reversing sanctuary city policy? Nah. A nightclub, another nightclub here in New York City.
What is that, Sneeko? Remember who was that? Sneeko? Remember he was sitting on the porch there at Gracie Mansion
Snake
with the man.
oil salesman?
Right. The anti-Semite. And then he claimed, I didn't know he was an anti-Semite, but he was saying, oh, we need that club. We need that Club 11 here. What is the mayor hanging out at strip clubs in Miami?
What's going on here?
He's down in Miami more than he's here in New York City. Look, all of these guys running for mayor. Zohran Mamdani just left for 12 days to Uganda. 12 days to Uganda, where they want to kill gays and lesbians. Hey, good choice there, Zohran. I thought you're pro-gay and lesbian. You're going to the country of your birth that would execute a gay or lesbian. Then there's Andrew Cuomo, who campaigns from the Hamptons. Well, he does all of his campaigning from the Hamptons. And Eric Adams,
the Hamptons,
who spent time down in Florida. He did a podcast down there. The YRs, what are they, crazy in Fort Lauderdale, had a fundraiser for him. He would much prefer, him and P. Diddy. You know that song about Miami?
Well, he gave him the key to the city.
And he gave Fat Joe the keys that he took back. By the way, Fat Joe being charged with similar kinds of situations, freak-offs. So this man always wants to be something that he's not. All he should have been is the mayor of the city of New York. He was the hip-hop mayor. He was the swagger man with no plan. He was the nightlife mayor. Everything that he didn't even mention in his first campaign against me, he became. And now, given a second opportunity, a rebirth by the loss of Andrew Cuomo to Zohran Mamdani, he's brought back all his cronies, all his criminal cronies. He's doing pull-ups on the corner like a thug in prison. Right? And you say to yourself, man, you're the mayor. Would you please go up? Speaking of Stephen Colbert, who's now been canceled, got paid too much money. But remember, the moment that Eric Adams beat me in 2021, I had my arm in the sling. Remember
From
that?
getting hit by a cab.
Right in front of Rockefeller Center. That was Bill de Blasio smoking a blunt, driving the cab with Eric Adams in the back. So 3 days before the vote tally, I got hit. My elbow got broken in 2 places. So I'm convalescing in the apartment, and Nancy goes, oh, Stephen Colbert has Eric Adams. He was giving him reefer, weed on the stage. And even Stephen Colbert was, Mr. Mayor, you can't do that. That's illegal. No. I got some bamboo. We'll roll right here. We'll do puff, puff, pass. This guy's the mayor of the city of New York. He's a goofball. But he's very beguiling. Whatever he needs to say to avoid a tough situation, he'll say. But then eventually he wears out the welcome mat, and boy, Christine Noem fired him up today.
Woo, she sure did. Folks, we're going to come right back with Curtis Sliwa. We're going to hear more about what Curtis is going to do for the city of New York. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, we're back, and we're still with Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa's running for mayor in the city of New York. Curtis, you're a professional broadcaster. You've been on the air for as long as I've been alive almost. You wear the red beret proudly, not because you're a commie like Mamdani, or as I call him, Mad Manny, but because of that's the symbol of your Guardian Angels Safety Patrol group. A lot of people say you should take off the beret and then we'll take him seriously. I say it's the beret that makes him serious. But I want to know, the people that are out there just meeting you for the first time, what is your plan? I think I do a good job criticizing these guys. You do a good job criticizing your opponents. But what is Curtis Sliwa all about?
Well, first off, let me amend what you originally said. I mean, in 35 years of talk radio, and for 4 years, I lost my mind. I went to a place called AM 970, The Answer. Nobody listened to me. I did morning drive. I did evening drive. And the only person ever to recall having listened to me was this guy, Rich Valdez. And I asked him, how come you're the only one who's ever recalled listening to me? He said, I had no choice. I lived right next to the tower.
That's true.
I said, no wonder why. But also, there is the fact that being in talk radio 35 years, I recognize the power of this medium, which you had an opportunity first by working for the Mark Levin show.
Yes.
And with Richie Rich, the producer, phone screening, substituting. You were at WABC, the house, where it's always broadcasting Curtis. And they said to the liberty-loving Latino, we don't need you. I said, what? A Latino broadcaster with his cred? And now Westwood and the Bohannon, who I used to appear with often over the years, no longer here. He's in radio talk show heaven. And the man who has taken on that microphone, Rich Valdez. Well, this is what differentiates me from everybody else running for mayor in New York City. I'm the only Republican, so I have Republican values. Number two, for the first time ever in the history of electoral politics, I collected enough signatures to qualify a protecting animals independent line, which actually comes before Eric Adams' independent line or Andrew Cuomo's independent line. And it stands for no kill shelters. We're not going to kill any more animals. We're going to find a home for them, a home in their own, and we're going to put animal abusers in jail. Now, I live in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which is about the bluest blue area in the country. And I have to walk outside in the morning to get a cup of coffee. And they hate me there because I get an R in front of my name. I'm the Republican candidate. But they come up to me, the old out the cockers who have a hard copy of the New York Times, and they read every page, including the letters to the editor. When they're at Starbucks, they're arguing over the letters to the editor. And they say, Curtis, you're a Republican. Trump, red, MAGA. I could never vote for you, but you take care of animals with your wife. There's a side of you I never knew existed. You're compassionate. You're caring. You love animals. People are going to vote for me on that line who could never vote for me for Republicans. So, number one, protecting animals. Such a key. Look at what happened in this last presidential campaign. Springfield, Ohio, all of a sudden J.D. fans said, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, the Haitians. And then remember, Peanut the squirrel and his friend the raccoon. It became an international situation involved in the campaign. And since the Trump administration, Trump has ordered no more testing on animals with RFK Jr.,
yes,
like the evil Dr. Fauci with the beagles.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of animal-friendly events. DeSantis in Florida, you cannot tether an animal during a national emergency like a hurricane or you're going to jail. And in Florida, they say you're going to jail, you're going to jail. I'm so happy that the Republicans are now so animal-friendly, and the Democrats, too. I give them props. 4 years ago, not at all. So that's one aspect. Number
law
two.
enforcement.
Excuse me?
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement. I'm going to hire 7,000 cops. The people who are running for office now all wanted to defund the police, including Eric Adams, who was painting Black Lives Matter every day in the middle of the summer of George Floyd 2020. 7,000 cops we desperately need. And I'm going to give the cops back their qualified immunity. People say, what is qualified immunity? It sounds like a $5 word, multisyllabic. What it means is all civil servants, 300,000 employees of the city of New York, are protected with an insurance policy. Should they do anything, even if it's wrong, the insurance will cover what the payout has to be to the aggrieved. Cops had that stripped away. By who? Governor Cuomo, the state legislature. By the city council, and Eric Adams did not put up a fight. So now, when you look at how tepid and intimidated the cops are to do any kind of physical intervention, in the back of their head, they're saying, if I physically intervene and I get sued, I'm not covered by qualified immunity like Cuomo is with all the sexual harassment charges that occurred when he was governor. I can be personally sued. I can lose my mortgage, lose my house. I could lose what little I have. So I am going to restore that. And then third, it makes me different than everybody else. We had eventually 400 people who got fired from their jobs because they either couldn't take the vax for medical reasons or for religious reasons or just chose not to.
Yeah.
And they lost everything because of a guy named Bill de Blasio. And then Eric Adams, who inherited that policy, could have canceled it. No, he made it personal. They've gone to court. He's fought them in court. On day one, when I get sworn in, January 1st, 2026, all of the survivors will be up on the stage. The same one who were, the workers, they had to be there. Remember, we applauded them every night during the lockdown and pandemic of March of 2020, and then we turned these heroes into zeros. We destroyed their lives. They're going to be up there. Essential workers, if they want their jobs back, they got them. Even if they don't, they're going to get all their back pay. They're going to get all the benefits. And I'm going to make sure we put plaques up in City Hall with their name on it to honor them as true heroes who suffered the ultimate indignation, embarrassment, destruction of their lives. And they said, no, but I'm not taking that vax. I mean, you're talking about people of strong values who lost everything. And it's like Humpty Dumpty. We got to try to put them all back together again. That's what I'm going to do on day one.
Curtis, you have a long history of defending synagogues in New York City, houses of worship when they've been under attack. There have been suicide bombings in Syria of Christian churches. What's your commitment as a public figure, as mayor of the city of New York, to defend religious liberty?
I am going to be the first Gentile to say to the Jews, stop depending on Gentiles. Because all they do is they come to a synagogue or a shul, they give a nice speech, and then they take your checks because they know they won't bounce. And they are all there for the gelt. And they don't do anything. Look at Eric Adams. He let him run wild on the University of Columbia campus. He never went up there once. Look at Andrew Cuomo. He hid out in the Hamptons. He gave speeches in synagogues there. He did nothing for the Jews other than want their money and support. And I'm going to tell the Jewish people what I've always told them, whether it's an election season or non-election season. You have to defend yourself. History is replete with activities in which you depended on Gentiles and they abandon you. So why can't continue to depend on Gentiles? Like there's the great Mashiach out there who's going to defend you. You're more than capable of defending yourselves. Organize, patrol, make it so that nobody will ever come into your community and challenge you. And stop depending on Gentiles. And that would include me, who's been very friendly to Jewish interests. But the fact is, if you don't take care of matters yourself, like they do in Israel, you will be victimized. Stop being a culture of victimization because your enemies prey on that. It's Darwinian, survival of the fittest, saying, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. You come to bully us, there's going to be a hell of a price to pay. The bullying will stop.
Amigos, you heard it here first. Now, Curtis Sliwa, tell everybody, how do they dig deep into their pocket? And when they have that big donation, where do they send it?
Now, we're talking to the Rich Valdez audience, right?
That's right. Biggest audience in late night radio.
So when you go in the morning to Waffle House and get your eggs, grits, and your cup of coffee, I want you to starve one day. Because I know you're a Rich Valdez audience. You live paycheck to paycheck, and you love Waffle House like I do. And you got to give me that moolah shmoolah. You got to give me that money for my campaign. So you go to sliwafornyc.com. That's sliwafornyc.com. And so you have eggs, no grits, no toast on the side. You know, if you help me save New York City, that will help save America, because, you know, they're not just going to stop at Los Angeles, Chicago, San Francisco. If Zohran takes over New York City and the socialists prevail, they're coming to a city near you. And my job is to improve, don't move, because, as you know, Rich Valdez, if I can keep more New Yorkers in New York City, it's less likely that your state will become purple and then blue. Keep them all here.
That's it. All right. I like that plan.
I got a mission.
He's a man with a mission. Curtis Sliwa, New York's guardian angel. Give him a donation if you're so inclined at sliwafornyc.com.
Very good.
All right, amigos. My memory served me well. I'm coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez, and I hope you enjoyed that interesting sit-down with Curtis Sliwa in our New York City studio. I believe he's the only person that can beat Mamdani. Anybody who is even remotely promoting Eric Adams, please wake up. Give me a call. Text me. I'll tell you the lowdown. A lot of people across the country that think that he's the right way to go to avoid a communist takeover. You're dead wrong. Trust me on this. Now, I want to read an article to you, a little bit of it at least. Western Journal, definitely not a left-wing rag. Here's the headline. Upset alert. Mamdani plummets in new poll as Republican long shot surges. New poll suggesting that Democrat, Socialist, and New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, his shine may be wearing off with some of the voters. Mamdani's support has dropped 14 percentage points from less than a week ago, based on a previous poll, while Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa surged 12%. Mamdani shocked the political world by winning the Democrat primary. And the bottom line here, right? I mean, it's a good article, all of it. Western Journal is the article. It's by Randy DeSoto. But bottom line here is Curtis is incredibly competitive. He's a Republican running without any endorsements from MAGAville, right? And I wish he would get one. El Trompito, if you're listening, sir, strongly consider putting some support behind Curtis Sliwa. Your city needs you. And he's totally within striking distance. So let that ring out across the country. Folks, we're going to continue our conversation on what's going on with Tulsi Gabbard and what she's blown the lid on, something El Trompito called out a long time ago. Plus, we're going to talk about a lot more peptides and a bunch of other health-related stuff as well. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez. We're just getting started. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the program. It's another hour for you. If you're locked in live, it's 7 minutes past the top of the hour. I want you to join our late night national town hall conversation. So here's the phone number to call the show, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to take a trip down memory lane, right? Because there's been a lot of news about a lot of things over the weekend. But one of the things that, caught my eye was the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, blowing the lid off of this cover-up that allegedly proves that the Biden administration knew with certainty that Russia had no interference, no influence on the United States election, where Donald Trump won the election. Yet they repeated that lie anyway, just so they could spy on President Trump. That's simple, right? On candidate Trump and then President Trump, a sitting president in the White House. Why? To sabotage his presidency. That's why. And everybody and their mama is calling for them to be put in jail, including El Trumpito de Naldis Magnus. Now, he hasn't said that publicly, but he did share an AI video, which was very funny, by the way, of him sitting next to Barack Obama in front of the Oval Office fireplace, and a bunch of FBI agents come in and put Obama on the floor and handcuff him and take him into custody. And again, it's funny because, it looks like AI. It looks real in the beginning, and then it looks like AI, like one of those video games. Towards the end, it's a little robotic. But it is funny. It is a joke. Trump is the best troller out there, period. El Trumpito de Naldis Magnus, the 45th president and the 47th president of these United States. He's the king of trolling. So, I wouldn't take that as anything other than he's repeating public sentiment. People are hitting me up for sure, right? All over the social media feeds, my inbox, my text messages. Everybody's saying they're finally going to jail. I have a brother who might as well be Q from QAnon. That's how deep into this he is. And he's always, he's telling me, he's like, this is it, Richie. Get your popcorn. Watch what happens. They're going to lock them all up. They're going to take Obama in. And I actually sent him the clip of the Trump video. And, he doesn't think it's funny. I think it's funny. He thinks I'm mocking him. And I guess a little bit of me is mocking him. But I get it. I do it in fun because I realize these are good-hearted people. Good-hearted people that want to see good results for the country they love. And I guess my question to you all is, will President Obama and anybody else involved in the spying of President Trump, will they be held accountable? Will there be jail repercussions? Now, my position on this as a non-lawyer has been that these guys will, it's twofold, right? Number one is, Obama's going to say, well, I thought what I did is in the best interest of the country at the time as a sitting president. And, I stand by that. That's all he has to say if he's going to say anything at all. And he'll get away with it because of the immunity that he has as president. So what's the point? What's the point? I'll tell you the point. The point in putting this out there is because you want to correct the public record. You want to correct the historical record moving forward. You want to make sure that the American people know exactly what happened and what these people did. Now, some of you are saying, come on, Valdez, you're being spineless here. You're being soft. Let's lock them up and throw away the key. Get the gallows ready for these guys. To you, I say, look, what we desire isn't the mandate of the law. Now, I want to make good on this conversation. So forget about what my feelings are. Forget about what your feelings are. I want to bring in what the Constitution says, what the criminal code says, and I want to bring in the author of the Russia hoax. He's going to be joining us in a little bit because there's a lot of things we got to talk about in the legal realm, right? What can really happen to Comey et al., Obama, for what they've done? Also, former speaker, the minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, making some political moves to oust Alina Habba as United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. Now, what's up with that? He can do whatever he wants politically, but using his influence to sway judges, district judges, for them to say, look, we know the president put you in an interim capacity, but now we want you out. I say that might be crossing the line. And Mike Davis from the Article 3 Project, he filed an ethics complaint against Minority Leader Jeffries. So I want to get into some of that as well in this hour. And, of course, my thoughts and prayers are with the family of this Border Patrol agent who was shot in the face yesterday, and Kristi Noem setting the record straight, doing an excellent job today, along with Tom Homan in this press conference, ripping Eric Adams, the mayor of the city of New York, to shreds. And again, he should be ripped to shreds. Everyone should know, everyone, including all those people out there that were saying, hey, Curtis should step aside, the guy who's polling in last place that they were pushing for. Some of my really good friends in MAGA world who were pushing for Eric Adams, of all people. Absolutely not. The guy who called himself the Biden of Brooklyn. Now, this is not an endorsement of Mamdani, and it's not an endorsement of Andrew Cuomo. What did Curtis say? Killing grannies and slapping fannies. Man, that was clever. But the reality here is Curtis Sliwa really is the best candidate on that ballot, hands down. And I can't for the life of me figure out why people wouldn't want to get behind a candidate who's within striking distance of winning. Now, look, I'm not going to base my opinion of Curtis on what others think or do. I have to do it on my own, right? So I know I'm putting my support there. I'm writing my check. I'm going to go knock on doors. I was with him in the Puerto Rican parade as he rode down Fifth Avenue on a float. I was right next to him. And I do that because I know this guy, and I know he's right for New York City. But the bigger issue here for me is how sometimes we fall for very weak debates, very weak comparisons. And if we have a little time later, I'll get back into this, but we need to stop helping Democrats. We really do. We have to let Democrats just fail on their own. We can't sit here and support them and bail them out because we've done it before. And I'll cite a couple of examples where we've done that in the name of the lesser of two evils. No. It's time we stand up on our own too and fight, just like Trump did. Trump didn't say, let's go with the lesser of two evils. Trump fought. He was like, whichever one of you wants to do it. Trump fought 15 people. Jeb Bush, no problem. Political royalty, no problem. Experienced senator, no problem. Right? Knocking them down one by one. He did what had to be done. He was plain spoken, and he kept it real. That's exactly what Sliwa does. And that's why I know that this guy can win, given the opportunity, given the support, given the infrastructure. And he's earning it. Little by little, he's clawing away at the media that won't give him the coverage he needs. He's clawing away at the establishment that won't back him up the way they should. And listen, I give him nothing but credit because something I see every time I've been out with him, the people of the city really respect him. The people of the city really love him. But anyway, I want to get back into this stuff with Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI. And very quickly, I want you to hear this flashback. Elise Stefanik questioning Robert Mueller about the Russia hoax. Listen to this.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mueller, as special counsel, did you review documents related to the origin of the counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign?
On occasion.
Was the Steele dossier one of those documents that was reviewed?
And I can't discuss that case.
I'm just asking a process question. Have you read the Steele dossier?
And again, I'm not going to respond to that.
You were tasked as special counsel to investigate whether there was collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign associates to interfere with the 2016 election. And the FBI, we know, has relevant documents and information related to the opening of the CI investigation. Were you and your team permitted to access all of those documents? And
again, I can't get into that investigative, what we collected and what we're doing with investigation materials.
Let me ask it this way. Was there any limitation in your access to documents related to the counterintelligence
That's such a broad question. I have real trouble answering it.
Did the special counsel's office undertake any efforts to investigate and verify or disprove allegations contained in the Steele dossier?
Again, I can't respond.
The reason I'm asking, for the American public that is watching, it's apparent that the Steele dossier formed part of the basis to justify the FBI's counterintelligence investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. As we know, it was used to obtain a FISA warrant on Carter Page. This is why I'm asking these questions. Did your office undertake any efforts to identify Steele's sources or subsources?
Again, the same answer.
Again, that is New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik trying to ensure that she can get a response out of former FBI director and then special counsel Robert Mueller about the Russia hoax. And what did he do? Stonewall. He refused to answer. Each and every time, he just would not answer. And my question here is why? Why would he not answer any simple question? Of course, back then, they take the high road, these political types, the deep state types, and they just say, well, sources and methods. Well, I'm smarter than you. I'm better than you. I've been in government for 50 years, so I can just say stuff. You don't know anything about this. And they just try to be smug, as if I know so much more than everybody. But they forget that people aren't dumb. Just because they may not be lawyers and FBI directors doesn't mean that they don't know right from wrong, and it doesn't mean that they can't smell a fake, a phony, and a fraud a mile away. And that's what he was then, and that's what he is now. And even back then, as we were fishing for the truth, we knew what it was. Little by little, Kevin Kleinsmith, FBI lawyer, admits to doctoring an email so that they could get surveillance done on President Trump. Isn't that crazy? All sorts of lies that went on, right? They started with Carter Page, who was a foreign policy aide to the Trump campaign. I interviewed him some years ago. Nice guy. Met him once in Maryland. Just a policy wonk. Simple guy. Nice guy. And they went after him like he was a terrorist. The things that they've done. George Papadopoulos. I mean, it just amazes me. So kudos to Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard blowing the lid off of this stuff. And straight ahead, we're going to bring in the author of The Russia Hoax. He is a Fox News legal analyst and literally wrote the book on this stuff. Our buddy Greg Jarrett is joining us. Straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Fox News Digital exclusively reporting that the Obama administration manufactured and politicized intelligence to create a narrative that the Kremlin was trying to influence the 2016 presidential election. This is the origins of Russia. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has just declassified today these documents, laying out this timeline. Prior to 2016 and the election, officials from across the intelligence community assessed Russia lacked the intent and capability to hack U.S. elections. After President Trump's 2016 victory, early intel assessments proved that there was no foreign manipulation. Now, officials tell Fox that intelligence was then manufactured and politicized to be used as the basis for the year-long Mueller probe. The documents state, quote, hours before the December 8th, 2016 PDB was due to be published, a senior intelligence official abruptly pulled it from the president's briefing book. It was never published. The next day, on December 9th, 2016, the Obama White House convened in a classified NSC meeting with top administration officials to discuss Russia. Following the meeting, an email was then sent from then DNI Clapper's executive assistant to the intelligence community officials with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling. Within hours, the intelligence community made a 180-degree pivot and started drafting an intelligence community assessment that directly contradicted assessments from the previous 6 months, manufacturing and amplifying the Russia hoax narrative. This is what DNI Director Gabbard is saying today. There was a treasonous conspiracy in 2016 committed by officials at the highest level of our government. We'll continue to break down the bombshell as it develops.
That report again from the Fox News Channel. And I want to get to the bottom of this with legal and political analyst for the Fox News Channel, Greg Jarrett. He's author of Trial of the Century. He's also the guy who literally wrote the book on this stuff, The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump. He wrote that 7 years ago. Greg Jarrett, welcome back.
Hey, Rich, good to be with you again.
Likewise, good to hear your voice, sir. And, you know, this stuff is, again, I feel like I keep reliving history, but now there's actual criminal referrals made. And in my old age, I'm 47 now, Greg. In my old age, I've become a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to these things because I think everybody hides behind the immunity of their office. And this is nothing more than an exercise in correcting the record, the historical record, the public record. Prove me wrong.
No, I think you're right. I'm also not terribly optimistic that any of the bad actors who did all of this, and there are plenty of them, will ever be held to account legally. But, you know, I have to blame two people in particular, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. I mean, never before in American history has a departing president connived and schemed to sabotage and destroy the man who would replace him. And these newly revealed documents show that Obama and his national security team did indeed manufacture and make up phony intelligence to help frame Donald Trump as a Russian asset when they knew from the outset that it was untrue. And as the report just identified, you know, they altered intelligence documents to drive the scandal. Obama did it. Biden was in on it. And then the three stooges of national intelligence, Comey, Clapper, and Brennan. They altered the intel documents to drive the scandal, even though U.S. intelligence determined there was no Russian interference in the 2016 election. You know, I see this as really the first in the beginning of a long lawfare campaign that was waged against Trump. And I think the FBI is now looking at this as an ongoing vast criminal conspiracy case.
Good.
And that's important because it would eliminate the problems with statute of limitations, and you could get the venue of any prosecution out of Washington, D.C., where it's impossible to gain a conviction against Democrats.
So all hope is not lost, but seems like they're building a case. Greg Jarrett, the music means they're kicking me out, but we're going to come back. I want to continue our conversation on this topic as well as your thoughts on Democrats now trying to oust Alina Habba as United States Attorney. And if there's time, we're going to squeeze in a little bit of Epstein. Folks, we're on with the man himself. He wrote The Russia Hoax, Greg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst, and our guest. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Listen, I like your show. It's the best night show there is. I think you've got the best spirit, the best emotions. You're real. You're really a good guy.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Does anyone think that that's a serious complaint? I mean, really? Seriously? Does anyone think that that's a serious complaint from this hack right-wing extreme group?
They didn't go to the OCC. They went to the Ethics Committee.
Still want to remove it. The so-called U.S. attorney from New Jersey is woefully unqualified and is a political hack. The people of New Jersey deserve better. If I said it, I meant it.
Sir, just That's Hakeem Jeffries trying his best to talk tough on how he's persuading district judges in New Jersey to oust Alina Habba, the president's former civil attorney, who's now the United States attorney for the District of New Jersey. And I want to get to the bottom of this. Others in the legal community have now filed a ethics complaint against him, and I want to know what the next step is. We're bringing back in the pro that we're talking to here, and that's none other than legal and political analyst for the Fox News Channel. He's the author of Trial of the Century. Greg Jarrett is with us. He also wrote the book, The Russia Hoax. Greg Jarrett, when you hear Minority Leader Jeffries talking tough this way, all this bluster, trying to get rid of Alina Habba, I realize that there is some provisions that allow for these temporary interim appointments that do expire, but there's some discretion there. Tell us more.
Well, the judges right now have a choice. They can either extend the interim appointment of Habba beyond the 120 days by statute, or they can refuse to extend it, and that, of course, leaves a vacancy, which judges universally hate. They could also name their own preferred U.S. attorney, but that's pointless since the president has the power to fire that person immediately, and again, that would leave a vacancy. What the judges should do is respect the constitutional process. They should extend the interim appointment and let the U.S. Senate decide the nomination during confirmation. That's how the Constitution was written. And in fact, the law on interim, U.S. attorneys should have accounted for that, but they didn't, because Congress is clumsy. They're myopic when they write laws. They don't look down past their noses to see what might happen in the future. So the question is, there was a meeting today of the judges. They're hyper-political in New Jersey. All but 2 of the 17 judges were appointed by Democrats, which tells me they'll probably do the wrong thing and refuse to extend the interim position of U.S. attorney for Alina Habba. And so, with a vacancy, they're only hurting themselves. Jeffries' conduct in this sordid affair is reprehensible.
Right. And I think it again, I get it. He's a politician and he's playing politics here. But it seems like some sort of political retribution over the arrest of LaMonica McIver, the Democrat congresswoman from New Jersey, who shoved the Homeland Security official, the ICE person. And I get it, but I'm wondering, is there any meat on the bone with this ethics complaint? Because it seems like that's outside of the scope of a congressperson, or am I wrong?
Well, I have little confidence in Congress in general and the Ethics Committee in particular. Look, the fact is, Rich, that Hakeem Jeffries does have the right to voice his opinion about a nominee publicly. What he cannot do is directly lobby the New Jersey judges by demanding that they remove the U.S. attorney. That's ethically suspect. What he's really trying to do is influence a pending criminal case that was brought by Alina Habba against one of his colleagues, as you point out, Democrat Representative McIver, who was charged in that ugly altercation at the immigration facilities. And Jeffries all but admits he's doing that. I mean, he accused Habba of filing the case maliciously despite the incriminating video evidence. And now Jeffries is directly pressuring the judges to sack the prosecutor to protect and help his friend McIver. And, in my book, Exploiting Your Heat or Prejudice, an ongoing criminal case, that is perilously close to obstruction of justice. Technically, it's probably not, but it is absolutely 100% ethically wrong. But I'm not surprised that Hakeem Jeffries is lacking ethics.
Greg Jarrett, this is a perfect example, right? And kind of our previous segment was a good segue here, because again, I would suspect that Hakeem Jeffries would say, A, I'm an American, I have the right to free speech, and B, I'm a member of Congress, and I'm protected by the speech and debate clause. And he would just go on and on about why he's not influencing anything. He's just speaking his mind. And I feel like in so many ways, this is what so many deep state Democrats have done while trying to sabotage Trump.
Yeah, they hide behind protections. And as I say, he has a right to voice his opinion publicly, but he's doing more than that. He is applying immense pressure on these Democrat-appointed judges to sack a prosecutor to scuttle a case against his friend. And, you know, that's not only unethical in legal circles, but I was rereading the, ethical rules for the House of Representatives, and it seems to violate rule number 1. So will the Ethics Committee see it that way? I tend to doubt it. They tend to be a tiger without claws and teeth.
Yeah. So do you think this comes down to, Greg Jarrett, an admonition from the speaker, or maybe a letter, admonishing him from Jeanine Pirro, the D.C. U.S. attorney?
No, I don't even think that'll happen. It's in the hands of Congress. They police their own. That's the way it was constructed under our Constitution. And, the reason for that is the ultimate remedy for bad behavior is at the ballot box.
Right.
But in New York, Jeffries has a very secure seat, as do a great many others like AOC.
Yeah, sadly. Folks, we're on with Greg Jarrett, legal and political analyst at the Fox News Channel, author of Trial of the Century and the Russia Hoax. And Greg Jarrett, in the last minute or so that we have together, I want you to give me some of your thoughts on this ongoing Epstein stuff. It's been ordered by President Trump for the AG to request or to file a motion asking for this stuff to be released. I would suspect that the same judges that didn't want this released in the first place are going to request heavy redactions. Should we expect some sort of bombshell to come of this, or is this more the same?
I honestly don't know. But, let's not forget, Rich, that Joe Biden could have released the Epstein files any time over the last 4 years, but, refused to do so. So there's blame on both sides. The mistake here, I think, in the Trump administration was some people overpromising and hyping the release. And, whether there's a literal client list naming names or client files that list names, that's sort of a distinct amount of difference. Either way, I think the DOJ should release everything because that's what they promised to do. And if they don't, I think the anger will only continue to build and, cause problems for the Trump administration. If the worry here is that prominent people will get smeared by their mere association with Epstein, well, too damn bad. It was their choice to associate with the guy, so you're going to have to deal with the consequences.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. And, there was a clip that I heard earlier of Todd Blanche calling, and he's deputy AG, calling Jeffrey Epstein America's most infamous pedophile. And it seems like the administration's all on board to have this information put out there. So I'm with you. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm hopeful that we'll be able to move past it and talk about something else. Maybe go back to this Alina Habba stuff.
Yeah. I think Americans have a right to know the details of people involved in child sex trafficking and abuse because that is horrific.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you on that one. And I don't know if I'm confident it's going to happen, but I'm with you all the way that it should be out there and people should know. And we should hold people accountable, embarrass them, all that stuff. Greg Jarrett, always a pleasure chatting with you. Let everybody know how they can keep up to speed with everything you're doing, the books you're doing, any podcasts you're doing, where they can find you.
Well, you can go to my website, dgregjarrett.com. My last book, Trial of the Century. Interestingly, today is the 100-year anniversary of that trial, the Scopes Monkey trial. And it's, go to your local bookstore, order it on Amazon, as well as the Russia Hoax and the sequel called Witch Hunt. They're still available.
Outstanding. Well, folks, check him out. Greg Jarrett. That's 2 G's, 2 R's, and 2 T's. Greg Jarrett, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Good to hear from you, my friend.
Thanks so much, Rich. Take care.
You bet. God bless. And amigos, your thoughts, calls, and reactions are coming up right now. Here's the phone number for Open Phone America, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And yeah, I'm hearing that's the immortal Larry King that you just heard there, the host 2 hosts ago on this program. And what always gets me, I always listen to that, right? I always hear it. And today's the first time I hear him go, and I hear voices. And I thought to myself, Larry King was hearing voices? Poor guy. Unbelievable, he's hearing voices. Well, I want to hear some voices too. If you're out there, I want to hear from you in New York, in Oregon, in California, in Arizona. We're on all over the country, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And again, that number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And of course, that's Valdez with an S. I want to go to Connecticut. We got Joe in Bethel, Connecticut on WLAD. Joe, go right ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Valdez.
Buenas noches, Joe.
There is an Old Testament solution to the national debt.
Tell me more.
Have a Jubilee year and forgive the $36 trillion.
Well, I would love that. The problem is we don't owe the $36 trillion like to ourselves. We owe it to other countries. And it would be upon China and others that are holding those debts against us to forgive us. So if that could happen, that would be a beautiful thing. And let me tell you, I've heard that idea floated before where the idea that forgiving the debt would be part of, I once heard it floated that Trump would be able to negotiate with China that after all of the damage they did to the United States during COVID, that it would only be reasonable for them to forgive, any debt that we have with them. I love the idea when I heard it. I still love it. I don't know that it happens, but it would be a nice idea. I always tell people, when it comes to politics or the government, Joe, and everybody else that's out there, we're not held to the same standard. At least my understanding of the New Testament, right? Jesus himself says, "Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's." And in rendering unto Caesar, giving the government their due, he's talking about paying taxes and whatnot. And in saying what you've got to do, you got to do what you got to do. So this is why I'm so adamantly opposed to communism, and anybody that ever makes the case that communism is what Jesus preached, because he preached helping the poor and helping the widows and helping the children and this, that, and the third, and sharing and people tithing to their church. No, I'm not saying that he didn't preach those things. I'm saying that those are all voluntary things, acts of love, acts of charity. The government doesn't have an act of love or an act of charity, right? The government is an instrumentality of the people, for the people, by the people. And therefore, it's there for its administrative capacity. You render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and you render unto God what is God's. You want to give charity? You do it from your own pocket, but you can't do it from the government. And this is why I'm always against the people that espouse socialism and communism, because it's just, A, it's not our job, and B, it's unsustainable. Joe in Bethel, Connecticut, thank you, brother, for the call. I appreciate it. Shout out to everybody in Connecticut on WLAD. And we're coming right back with the rest of your calls. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
My platform is that every single person should have housing. And I think faced with these two options, the system has hundreds of thousands of people unhoused, right? For what? And if there was any system that could guarantee each person housing, whether you call it the abolition of private property or you call it, just a statewide housing guarantee, it is preferable to what is going on right now. Mm-hmm. And I think that people try and play like gotcha games about these kinds of things. And it's like, look, I care more about whether somebody has a home.
There he is, Zohran Mamdani, saying he doesn't care about the abolition of private property. He's all for it as long as somebody gets a house. Now, here's the thing. If Bill Gates, if Jeff Bezos, if Donald Trump, if any one of these billionaires that are out there says, you know what, I want everyone to have a home, and goes out and buys them a home of their own money or starts a charitable foundation and says, hey, look, I'm going to get together with my other billionaire friends, and we're going to make sure that we get you homes. And a lot of people do it for veterans that are coming back home, for women that were involved in domestic violence. All sorts of charities exist. Go for it. Amen. Praise God. Hallelujah. But you don't get to do that on my dime, Mr. Mamdani. You don't get to do that on any taxpayer, all the people in New York City. That's not how this works. You don't get to be charitable with what has been rendered unto Caesar. You have to be fair, right? If somebody is homeless, you provide temporary shelter to help them get back on their feet. But to say we're just going to buy you a home. Now, listen, I can understand people making the case saying, look, we're going to buy every homeless person a home because it's a lot cheaper for us to buy them a home than to constantly provide endless services. I've heard this argument in the past. The problem is that doesn't guarantee that they're going to stay in that home. Now, if there's a way to do that and it makes sense, I'm willing to listen to it. But by no means am I going to get into a government program or what he said, a statewide housing guarantee. He's talking about putting everybody in the projects. That doesn't sound good. And when he's talking about, oh, look, you have an empty building here and you can't rent it in New York City because the rent is too high. All right, we're the state. We'll take it. We'll fill it up with the people we want to fill it up. And you can't have it anymore because you have no right to private property. We're here to help the people, right? And that, my friends, is exactly what Fidel Castro did in communist Cuba. Unbelievable. Let us go to Lester, Daytona Beach, Florida, very quickly. WTTB. Lester.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Rich, I don't think it's socialism that you have to worry about. I think it's Islamization that's coming.
Yeah, well, you're saying like the promotion of Islam as a religion or the promotion of radical Islamism?
Everything. It's the new jihad. There's no bombs this time. They're just getting into office.
Yeah, well, I mean, what kind of people would we be to say, hey, you're a Muslim, you can't take office, right? I think if you're a Muslim like he is that supports the crazies in Hamas and taking private property, then I say this kind of guy, this type of radical Islamist, is the type of guy we want to stop. Lester in Daytona Beach, WTTB, thanks for the call. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, God bless, and I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome back for another hour of our program. I want to welcome you to the late night national town hall conversation. Give me a call at 7 minutes past the top of the hour, Monday night, live and national. And here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Now, I want to get into a bunch of things. As you know, on our late night talk show here, we try to cover a number of things, right? The big stories of the day, other things that I think you might find interesting. And we have a little bit of flexibility every now and again because, you know, lots of people are on vacation. And somebody that is the CEO of a wellness company was on vacation. I happen to know this person's wife. I went to school with them years ago. And they're on vacation. They're from Arizona, and they're visiting New York. And I said, you know, let's get together. And I wanted to interview this guy because he had a really, really interesting story, a personal story about how a health scare brought about a whole business concept for him. He went from banking to being in the business of helping people be well and be healed. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I also want to get into, you know, what we're going to do in the latter half of the show, which is taking your calls. I'm going to take lots of calls from lots of people tonight because there's a number of things that I think are on the agenda, right? I mean, lots of news today. The Pentagon has directed 700 Marines to be deployed to, these 700 Marines that were deployed to Los Angeles have now been directed to return home. So that's a good thing. Thankfully, there's no more riots over there. At least I'm not hearing about them. The Trump administration has released 230,000 files related to the MLK assassination. Of course, that's the assassination of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And that was against the King Family Foundation. That was something they did not want to happen. But it happened. And one member of the King family was there with the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, as they did this release, and they took a photo, and they were both very happy about it. And some might think, why would they not want this information released? Bobby Kennedy, the Secretary, RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, he's been calling for the release of the files on the assassination of his father, RFK. And you would think the family would want to know, right? But sometimes the family doesn't want to know. And sometimes there's more to the story. Not too long ago, we had a guest on, Vince Everett Ellison, and he had a lot of things to say about Martin Luther King that were new to me. I'd never heard these things. And he's teamed up with somebody named Chad O'Jackson, and they've had a lot of things to say about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, up to and including his involvement in certain communist movements. Which I thought were really interesting, and my gut told me maybe they're just trying to, they didn't like something. But as I looked at it, a lot of the puzzle pieces fit together. And when we look at today's society, so often when things go wrong, like if you just look at school systems, right, and you look at failing school systems, you guys know I've been in the school choice movement for a long time and helped start a charter school in New Jersey. And I still serve on the board there. I can tell you that when we looked at different things across the state of New Jersey and to look at why schools were failing, it was always the same thing. It was always these political movements that were within and had taken over teachers' unions. And the organized labor movement from the early 1900s has been afflicted by communists more than anything, right? If you go to Marxist.org or Marxist.com, they've got writings dating back to the early 80s and even the early 1900s that have been rehashed and posted in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that talk specifically about taking over labor unions. So it comes as little surprised when I hear these types of things. But those are just some of the things that are going on in the news today. And something else that really I didn't like to hear. When I was a kid, I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, on Ocean Avenue and Avenue M, section of Brooklyn called Midwood, kind of bordered Flatbush. And I would oftentimes go to the pizzeria that was near the train station. And right across the street, kind of diagonally, I guess catty corner from the train station on Avenue M, was NBC Studios. And what they filmed there was The Cosby Show. And I would see Malcolm Jamal Warner, Bill Cosby at times, Felicia Rashad, and the rest, Tempest Bledsoe, the rest of the Cosby Show crew. Outside often. They would go there to get pizza as well. It was a very normal occurrence. They weren't my friends or anything, but it was like the first time I was like, oh, wow, that's from The Cosby Show. And then it became pretty normal to see them all the time. And I've always had an affinity, I guess, for Malcolm Jamal Warner because he's been very active in his acting career. And sadly, it was announced today that he's dead at 54 years old. So may he rest in peace. Accidental drowning. Theo Huxtable, known to many by his stage name. And, of course, his real name, Malcolm Jamal Warner. And really just, he was a good actor. Good actor. He did great on The Cosby Show, or it was, sitcom. He did great on a show called I think it was called The Resident on ABC. It was a great show, medical drama. Just really a really versatile actor. And, again, my condolences to his family. Let's see. Then you got, oh my goodness, Delta flight nearly colliding with a B-52 bomber while landing in Minot, North Dakota. Wow, that's something. And El Trompito Donaldus Magnus has posted a video, AI-generated video of Barack Obama getting arrested by the FBI in the Oval Office. Talk about trolling. Now, I want to talk a little bit about health, because as we all get older, we feel, kind of different, right? You slow down a little bit, you get some pains in your joints. And I know that happened to me quite a bit as I got heavier and I got older, right? In my 30s, I got a real big gut, not a real big gut, but I had a gut, but I put on a lot of weight and I just thought that was normal. And because I ate so much, I'm talking about washing it down with burgers and then stopping at the donut place, for dessert. And I learned how to eat better. And I've lost a good amount of weight, kept a lot of it off, and I fluctuate within a 10-pound range. But I've discovered recently something called peptides and hormones and all this stuff, and I wanted to learn more about it. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit this evening. And I have a clip I want to play for you specifically about the basics of biology that explains a little bit about what peptides are. Listen to this.
What are peptides? A peptide is a short chain of amino acids. The amino acids in a peptide are connected to one another in a sequence by bonds called peptide bonds. Typically, peptides are distinguished from proteins by their shorter length, although the cutoff number of amino acids for defining a peptide and protein can be arbitrary. Peptides are generally considered to be short chains of 2 or more amino acids. Meanwhile, proteins are long molecules made up of multiple peptide subunits, and are also known as polypeptides. Proteins can be digested by enzymes, other proteins, into short peptide.
All right, well, that's enough of that. We've heard a lot. That sounds boring, sounds like an AI robot. I want to bring in one of the real deals. Jim Nance, he's CEO of the wellness company known as Endless Vitality, and he's going to tell us a story about exactly what he went through. The story of how he had this huge health scare, not a scare, an actual health problem, and what he did to fix it. So keep it locked right here. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We're talking about peptides and all sorts of things in the nutrition space and the supplement space. And I know a lot of people hear about this, right? We've had a couple of doctors on talking about peptides, talking about different ways to supplement your health. And one of the things that keeps coming up is a lot of people going, I don't know what that is. Is that like hormone replacement? Is that all the same? I think there's a lot of questions that people want to ask, and we're going to get the answers to those. Plus, afterwards, you guys get to call in and talk to me, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. But first, I want to bring in somebody who is the CEO of Endless Vitality. Jim Nance is with us. Jim, welcome, brother.
Thanks for having me, man. It's great to meet you.
You bet. Likewise.
Being on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys coming to the city. I know you guys are in beautiful Arizona.
That's right.
Where it's 110 degrees at night.
It does get up there, man.
Yeah,
it's so hot.
Does it feel cool here in the city?
It does. It feels great. You know, the humidity is the biggest difference because in AZ 105 actually doesn't feel too bad when you have no humidity, but you start pushing 90, 80% humidity, you feel it.
They call this un verano en Nueva York, right? It's a New York summer. So let's talk a little bit about this stuff. Obviously, you're in the game. You're the boss here. Tell the audience a little bit about your background, how you got into this stuff, and why you think it's important.
Well, I've got a background in finance, actually. I went to Indiana University Business School. I was a mortgage banker for 25 years. About 8 years ago, I partnered up with a doctor after going to a clinic that does similar things for hormone replacement therapy. So I went and got labs done, found out I was low, had a bunch of my friends that kind of did the same thing. So we went in and had the adjustments, and I realized really quick the difference. It makes you feel completely different. Head clears up, your body changes, ability to put on muscle mass. It also drives your mental acuity, focus, and motivation. So you get a lot from HRT, especially if you have a deficiency. And then over the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years, you've had the emergence of peptides. So the number one selling pharmaceutical in the history of pharmaceuticals are GLP-1s, or semaglutide, tirzepatide.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's what everybody's using.
That's what everyone's using to get skinny.
And the other brands.
Right. So what it does is it causes an insulin release. So your body processes the sugar out of your bloodstream prior to it turning into fat. And at the same time, clicking off a hunger switch. So now you're not hungry, you're not putting on fat, and then you end up just kind of shrinking.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people love it. Hollywood is going to town with this.
Yeah.
Now, Jim Nance, I want to go back to something you said earlier. You went for your own initial hormone checkup and whatnot, made some adjustments. That's cool. How did I guess the number one thing I hear a lot of people complain about is mental fog after 40. They're just like, I might feel tired, my knee hurts, I can't think clearly. How does that work in that regard?
Well, testosterone by itself will definitely clear up brain fog if that's an issue for you. And there are peptides, which we're going to get into, that are specific to that as well, that help as nootropics. They help with the synapse in your brain, so it helps your brain just function better, helps with verbal fluency, mental fatigue. So after a long day, you know, if you're feeling a little bit low, or let's say, you know, some people will have trouble just remembering common words or people's names. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that snaps back into place when your hormones are balanced properly, or, you know, if you use a peptide to supplement that.
Let's get into that a little bit, because I know a lot of people, they hear things and they're like, oh, yeah, that's me. But they don't want to take anything extra. They don't want to take for fear of taking extra medicine or over-medicating, right? And I think a lot of people, for example, I'll give you an example. Me, I like chiropractic. If I could go to the chiropractor every day, I would.
Yeah.
Can't afford it, so I don't go, right? I don't own a chiropractor, but I wish I did. And I once had insurance that let me go like 3 or 4 days a week, and that was fantastic. I felt my best when every day I got an adjustment. So I think that what I learned in receiving chiropractic care was that medical doctors aren't big fans. The American Medical Association doesn't promote chiropractic. They think it's quackery. And I wonder, is it the same way with peptides and HRT? Is that the reason why a lot of doctors don't get involved?
So peptides are an emerging market. A lot of people don't understand what they are and how they work. And when you're a medical doctor, you're taught that you give this pharmaceutical for this symptom. right? But they don't typically treat the underlying cause of the problem. So that's where we come into play. I tell people, if you're sick, go to a doctor. You want to stay healthy, come see me.
That's a great line.
You know. So a peptide is basically just an amino acid chain lower than 40. Above 40 is considered a protein. So these peptides augment your health either by replicating something that your body makes naturally or causing your body to do things like produce more human growth hormone or repair, recover, add more energy, things like that. So a very popular peptide, and you'll hear more about this, is NAD+. So it pushes your mitochondrial function. So as we get older, our body makes less energy, less ATP. So what you can do is you can supplement NAD with a precursor being NMN, but that will simply cause your body to spit out more energy out of your mitochondria. Which
These
is like
are all
battery.
letters to me. What do these things specifically do? Like, what's the benefit?
So NAD will make more energy, or ATP. So your body takes food, turns it into glucose, and then it goes through a process, and eventually you get energy, and that energy is what drives your cells to function properly. As we get older, those energy levels fall off, and partially because our body just doesn't do a good of a job making things like ATP or HGH.
What do you say to the people that say, if my body's not making it anymore, then maybe I shouldn't be having it?
Well, you can grow old and be the old guy in the wheelchair, or it's like you got a classic car, but you're low on fuel.
Right.
So do you not go to the gas station? No, you want to get more gas. You want to run properly. And the same with your hormones. So as we get older, our testosterone falls off. There's a lot of things in the environment, like what we eat, things in the air, microplastics in water, that cause our testosterone levels to drop. In fact, over the last 30 years, it's dropped like 1% nationally across the country.
Is that because
for
of
men
Biden?
in general? It's well, I would say it's because of some of the policies, maybe, but a lot of it's the microplastics in the water, I think, and the sedentary lifestyle, a lot of screen time.
What benefit do you think some of the policies that Secretary Kennedy is putting forward? He's a very fit guy for 70 years old.
Yeah.
He's put a lot of policy. I think every week there's a new company saying we're not going to use food dyes and artificial flavoring. Do you think that's going to benefit some of the work that you do?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest things that the Biden administration did that really hurt our industry was categorize some of the peptides into a category, call it Category 2, where they say the benefits don't weigh possible side effects, so they don't understand it enough. So they took a bunch of the peptides that actually are naturally occurring and put them in this Category 2 class. Now, one that's kind of stuck there is called BPC 157. It's a gastric juice. Your body makes it naturally, but when you inject it, it feathers through your body, finds injury, creates a process called angiogenesis, or the formation of blood vessels, but it's a huge anti-inflammatory too. So a lot of the big problems we have is because we're inflamed, again, from the food, the water, and lifestyle are just getting older.
Give me an example of a couple of these inflammatory problems.
So let's say you're a workout fanatic. You went and run. You wake up, both your knees hurt. You hurt your shoulder a little bit, and now you can't get comfortable and you can't sleep well at night.
Right.
So these can repair joints, muscles, and push out that inflammation to make you feel like you didn't just have the issue that you just had. So if you want to be fit, you want to stay on top of everything, you want to be able to continue to get those workouts you've been getting. But if you got to take 2 or 3 days off because your knees hurt, then you're not going to be able to progress the way you'd like to.
Amigos, we're coming right back with Jim Nance. He's the CEO of Endless Vitality, and me, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, familia, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Jim Nance. He's the CEO of Endless Vitality out of Arizona, and he's here in New York City with me. We're talking about peptides, hormone replacement, and so much of the taboo topics, or so many of those taboo topics that the Biden folks didn't want us to talk about. And he stumbled upon this because of his own particular health journey. Jim, welcome back. Tell us about your particular story. What happened to you that sparked all this?
Well, I'll tell you, the health issue that I had was really due to blood pressure and stress. So I was both working as a mortgage banker as well as running the clinic. Well, had a very stressful day, had a marketing guy take me for some money. I was extremely upset. I get home and I finally got some blood pressure meds. Ironically, the day that I had the biggest issue, but I was sitting in my table at home and it felt like I got shot in the head. It was like, bam. So I really didn't know what to do. So I was like, you know what? This hurts so bad. I'm just going to drive myself to the hospital, right? So I drive myself, wrecked my car about halfway to the hospital. Luckily, my stepsister lived fairly close, so she came and picked me up, took me to the hospital. I get there, and they're like, well, we need to medevac you downtown. You have an issue. We got to take care of it immediately. And I'm like, well, she can drive me. Like, we're 10 minutes away. They're like, if you don't get in a helicopter, you're going to die. I'm like,
wow.
Bring around the chopper. You know what I mean? So they put me in a gurney, came in, put me down immediately. I had a brain bleed, so hemorrhagic stroke in the frontal lobe. They did the original surgery. I woke up unbeknownst to myself and I pulled the drain out. I don't remember doing this, so they put me back down again.
Wow.
Then I woke up the second time in handcuffs, ankles cuffed to the bed, catheter in, and I'm completely scrambled, bro. I have no idea where I'm at, how I got there, freaking out. I'm trying to pull myself up, but I'm literally chained to the bed. So I'm screaming at these poor nurses, and one of them has an Eastern European accent. So my mind makes up this whole backstory that I've been kidnapped, and I think I'm being organ harvested. Now I think I'm in Russia, seriously, because all the Ukraine-Russia stuff was going down.
Unbelievable.
So they come up, they trank me. They take me back to ICU, and I spent 2 weeks in ICU, and I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I had diabetes insipidus, so I was peeing out 3 times the water I was taking in, so they wouldn't let me drink anything anymore either.
Wow.
So I sat in there and I just kind of reevaluated my whole life, man. You know, it was definitely one of those turning points. And my beautiful now wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, had to make a game time decision to say, hey, am I going to stick it out with this guy? Because what I didn't know is I had a 25% chance of living.
Wow.
And of those people, about 65% of those have like major issues. You've seen stroke victims, man.
Yeah.
They're dragging a leg or half their face doesn't work. Whatever the
Was
case
this
may be.
related to cardiovascular disease?
High blood pressure. And then I had thought that it had something to do with my heart, and I had my heart checked and my heart was fine. So I was like, I'm not going to worry about it. Well, come to find out, it puts a lot of stress on your vascular system. So it just happened to be that day where too much time and pressure and boom. Yeah. So I'm in there, and they also find that I have a small meningioma or a small tumor in my head as well. But they're like, well, as long as nothing, you don't notice anything, don't worry about it. A lot of people have it. Well, about fast forward 6 months, and the thing grew over my optical nerve. So I woke up one morning and my left eye wouldn't look all the way left. So I lost my lateral gaze.
Wow.
Which I in turn lost my 3D perception of everything. So now I'm like stepping off curbs and blah, blah, blah. So I go back in, and I thought it was latency from the stroke. I thought I was having an issue with the stroke. They're like, no, your optical nerve now has a tumor that's grown over it, and you're going to need an additional surgery. So I'm like, great, another brain surgery, right? So I'd actually had the first surgery, having the tube reinstalled, and then when I got home, I had a CSF leak, so they took it out. It just didn't heal right. So now I've got like pink lemonade coming down my forehead. So I had to go back in for another surgery to have that thing taken care of. Then prior to having the brain tumor, I had my nose rebuilt because that was a part of the problem with my blood pressure. So now I've had a rhinoplasty, septoplasty, uveolectomy to rebuild my nose. I got hit in the face with a trash can in college, being in my rowdier days, being stupid.
And that caused high blood pressure.
And that caused high blood pressure.
Wow.
So they fixed that. Then I had the brain tumor removed at Mayo, which they did a great job. But when I got up from the surgery, it wasn't completely healed, so I had to have radiation to try to shrink the tumor to bring that back into check. But so what I'm kind of getting is I learned over the last 3 years really how to repair myself with peptides. So a lot of the things I offer, I have a personal experience with because I went through a lot to get where I'm at. And, if you know the clinical side, that's one thing. But if I can speak to you on, what they do, how they did it, or how it works, and how it affected me. And
right,
it's a lot more powerful.
What's some of the stuff that you personally used and benefited from?
So I would say the BPC 157 was big on the healing piece of it. I use dihexa and cerebrolacin. So the dihexa is a nootropic, so that helps speed my brain back up. But the cerebrolacin can actually regrow brain cells, which, you're taught in high school you can't grow those back, but you actually can. So those help with my cognitive function. I did a event with the NFL Alumni Association where I had doctors from all over the country come in, and actually one from internationally brought a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. So I took that, had that for a year, which I don't know if you know anything about hyperbarics, but man, it's just amazing because it puts you under pressure. Oxygen under pressure gets smaller. Now you can have 5 to 10 times the oxygenation, which a smaller molecule can break the blood-brain barrier.
Wow.
So it heals your brain, heals your body, and also helps stave off aging. So your chromosomes have telomeres that get smaller every time they replicate. And this can extend those, so it can extend your cellular life. So when that telomere's gone, you're gone. But most people die of chronic illness. You have a heart attack, or you get hit by a bus, or whatever.
So, Jim, if people are listening and they're like, man, this alphabet soup he's talking about sounds great, I want to get some of that. What do they do? What's the process?
So you go to endlessvitality.com. We've got a medical history form there that you'd fill out. Then we schedule a consult and labs typically. So that's probably the most important piece of this. As you get blood work done, then you get kind of a feel of what you got going on from the inside out. The doctor goes over that with you, goes over any deficiencies, then we makes recommendations for treatment. Then the doctors give us a plan of care to administer the medication, and then regular follow-up. And if you're in Arizona, we have a kind of like a DEXA scale. We do a full body composition. So you come in, and I always challenge people to beat me on the scale, you know what I mean? Because I've got a metabolic age of 37, but I'm 50 because of things like NAD, hyperbarics. Another one, methylene blue, kind of does the same thing, pushes out more ATP. But there's all these little things you can do. And these are, kind of stackable habits, and that's what we talk to people about. So I talk to people about a lot of things we don't even sell, like grounding, for example. You get a grounding mat, you sleep on it. Gary Brecken's got
3 people in the last 2 months have told me about these grounding blankets.
Yeah, so, the earth puts off a charge, which that charge helps your chromosomes build energy. And that's a big part of it. As we get older, we make less energy, and you get, your body just falls apart. So if you can keep up on these things, these stackable habits like staying hydrated, detoxifying yourself. So I got to do 5 days a week in the sauna, first thing in the morning, have a big glass of water with electrolytes. I use Baja Gold salt. So traditional table salt has a lot of rocks and glass in it, which inflames your blood vessels, and that's why people get high blood pressure a lot of times, because of the salt.
So you use a different salt that lowers your blood pressure.
Right. So this is one of these big misconceptions that salt's bad for you, but you need salt, just not that table salt, the crap everyone tries to do.
Salt of the earth. Jim Nance. If you want to learn more, check him out at endlessvitality.com, and keep it locked right here. We're coming back to your calls and more. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
We are referring all of the documents that we have uncovered to the Department of Justice and the FBI for a criminal referral. Over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama just weeks before he was due to leave office, after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American, because it has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. Creating this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the opposite, that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to try to, quote unquote, hack the United States election for the presidency of the United States. We are referring all of the documents that we have uncovered to the...
All right, so that was again a announcement from Tulsi Gabbard with some ever so soft music behind it, of her making reiterating what she announced on Friday. That was just yesterday on the Fox News channel with Maria Bartiromo, announcing again that there have been criminal referrals made. Now, I think too many of us get excited when we hear criminal referrals. I honestly don't remember a time other than Peter Navarro and the other Trump advisor that were referred criminally by Congress and actually got arrested. Other than that, I can't remember anybody ever getting arrested off of that. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I just don't remember it. I want to get your thoughts on this and so much more. Let's go to the phones. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Dan, Chicago, Illinois, WLS. Dan, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, third-time caller. Just one, isn't it kind of funny? Remember when Hillary was calling the Republicans members of the vast right-wing conspiracy when her and Bill were running for president? And now she is a member of the vast left-wing conspiracy.
Yeah, it's funny what we've learned since that time. Back then, we just made fun of her for saying these over-the-top things. But here we are, probably 30-something years later, 25 years later, and we were learning that it's all projectionism. Every time they say something about their enemies, they're literally guilty of doing it. It's the darndest thing, Dan.
Well, I guess it's, to catch a criminal, you have to think like a criminal. So obviously, that's the reason why she said it in the beginning, because that's kind of the way it ended up. And a little bit of an aside, my wife got me a subscription to the Limbaugh letter, and the gift at the time she got the subscription was a mug that said member of the vast right-wing conspiracy. I still proudly have that mug. I don't drink from it because I don't want to ruin the gold plating on it.
Oh, that's awesome.
He was giving that away. Yeah. So it just came to my mind at the end of before he went to the break when he said that.
Well, you know what's come to my mind, Dan, is that now I'm going to go on a hunt to get me a mug like that as a piece of memorabilia. A member of the vast right-wing conspiracy. I love it. Dan in Chicago, thank you very much. Shout out, of course, to El Rushbo, R.I.P., and I appreciate it. WLS in the building. Let's continue with your calls. I want to go to Todd calling us from Hotlanta, the A. Todd in Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Go right ahead, Todd.
Hey, good evening, Rich. A great show. I always learn so much. And
thank you.
I was calling about, I wish President Trump would get behind Curtis Sliwa. They've both been shot for fighting the good fight, and they're both underdogs, and they're both New Yorkers. And, Cuomo sent infected patients to nursing homes. He acted like a little Mussolini during the lockdown, said all kinds of horrible things about Trump. So, I really hope that Trump gives him the support he deserves because, Trump and Sliwa want to make New York and America great again. Mamdani and the Democrats, AOC, they want to make communism great again. So, and I think,
well put.
He's on a roll. Trump's on a roll. I think we got the momentum. So I say go for it.
I'm with you, brother. From your lips to God's ears, and I hope Trump heard that. Mr. President, if you're listening, listen to Todd in Atlanta. Now, listen, I don't know that this is an arbitrary thing. I don't think President Trump is sitting back saying, I don't think I want to endorse Curtis. Maybe he is, but I really think what this comes down to is politics. I think politically, you look at this, and you say, okay, I'm the president of the United States. I'm literally on track for a Nobel Peace Prize. I am brokering peace deals in multiple wars all over the country. Several have ended, a couple more that I need to put an end to. That's just one part of his foreign policy. You've also got a recent military strike on Iran that, we're trying to iron out the details there. You've got tariffs working better than expected by so many people. And there's, so much more. Landmark crypto legislation, right? So the Trump administration is literally firing on all cylinders on every part of his agenda. And it's not campaign time. During campaign time, he's making all the deals. He's going on all the shows. He's all over the place, right? He was doing campaign. Now he's in presidential mode. So I get why he would not want to get into a race, especially a year like this where there aren't a lot of races. It's a perfect time for the president and the team in the White House to put their nose to the grindstone and get really busy. I get that. I also understand if you see a wrong that is going on, like the wrong that his team observed and said that the Biden people, the Biden DOJ, overcharged the sitting mayor, Mr. Adams, because it was political retribution, then I would say, hey, look, do the right thing. You do the right thing. That puts Mayor Adams in a position where he owes Trump. So if I had a mayor that owed me something, it's a lot easier for me to work with somebody that I know owes me something than somebody that I have to get to know and build with and actively help. So I think by Trump staying out of the race, he's tacitly helping Eric Adams, which is the detriment here. But for him politically, he's got a mayor that's on his team, if you will. The problem with that is, as Secretary Noem pointed out today, this guy isn't really in anybody's corner. He'll say and do whatever he feels he needs to say and do, and he's a loser. He is in last place. He's polling terribly. So I think President Trump is likely just going to stay away from this. And it's my hope that he'll, do an endorsement very soon. Last go round, America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani was on board with Curtis. Did a ringing endorsement for Curtis. So my hope is that, it's still July and that people are mulling it over and doing their work, and that, as we get closer and closer to this election and the momentum really picks up after September, that we'll see a lot more endorsements. And again, that's my hope. I don't know if I'll get what I'm wishing for, but I'm glad you're with me, Todd. Spread the word. Let's get Sliwa elected. All right, folks, coming right back. Your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, to the phones we go. WVMT, Tony, Montreal, less than a minute to go. Go right ahead, my friend.
Listen, the left have probably committed worse crimes than the Watergate crimes. I believe anybody that was in the conspiracy should be arrested or charged. And anybody that was in that false, report that tried to link President Trump to the Russians, that's a conspiracy worse than treason, probably of greater magnitude than anything in the United States history, and it's a black mark on the Democratic Party, and that should be something that the Justice Department actually investigates, and if necessary, charges Obama and his crew, because they tried to take away the presidency multiple times, and this is an obstruction of justice greater than anything that we have ever seen in the history of the United States presidency. And it's sad, and it's a black mark on the presidency. I don't know. That's what I think.
No, Tony, listen, I'm with you, brother. And I hope from your lips to God's ears that something actually happens, because I'm tired of seeing nothing really happen of any substance or any value. Godspeed to you, my friend. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. If you're sticking with me, stick around. If not, hasta mañana, hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdez.